Prologue. Galad kills Eamonvalda for Morghast's murder. Ituralde prepares for the Seanchan threat, while Siroth struggles with Tuon's turmoil. Pavara and Yukiri attempt to infiltrate a Black Aja meeting. Egwene pretends to be unconscious during transport and reflects on her vulnerability among the Aes Sedai. Sylviana informs Egwene that she will be treated as a novice, stripped of her title, and monitored closely. Despite Sylviana's threats of punishment, Egwene asserts her identity. She warns Sylviana of a Seanchan attack through her dreams, leading to cautious acknowledgement of her abilities. In Chapter 1, a fierce wind rises from Dragonmount, heralding chaos as news of the Amerlin seat's likely death spreads after her boat is found overturned. Aes Sedai, including Siuan Sanche, gathered to debate their next steps. Siuan, filled with grief and urgency, decides to inform others of crucial news regarding Egwene and Leon, who are alive but imprisoned in the tower. She rides to find her fellow sisters, but is met with skepticism. Siuan warns against a rescue attempt, fearing Aes Sedai will die at the hands of their own, emphasizing the need for unity despite rising tensions. In Chapter 2, Baonin awakens, troubled by the Dark One's influence and the murders of two Blues Aes Sedai. She urges her warder, Travail, to explore connections between the victims and seize the ghost of Turanine, heightening her concerns. Baonin plans to disguise herself to approach Elida. Meanwhile, Elida faces Matin Stepaneos' demands for loyalty amid unrest in Tarvalin. Elida learns Baonin has rediscovered the weave for traveling, which she aims to control. Elida demands an oath from Baonin to teach new weaves only with her permission, and orders surveillance on sisters linked to rebels, revealing tensions within the tower. In Chapter 3, Arengar arrives at a meeting called by Moradin, where she finds Semerhej, Demandred, and Missana discussing their plans. They debate the implications of Egwene's role in the rebellion and how her absence may affect the Aes Sedai. Moradin ultimately arrives and asserts his control, revealing that Samael may still be alive. He instructs the others to find and kill Perrin Ibera and Mat Cauthon, and emphasizing the urgency of their mission as they prepare for the impending conflict. Arengar considers her ambitions, particularly her desire to manipulate Graendal. In Chapter 4, Perrin meets the Seanchan, accompanied by Berelain and her guards. Tensions rise as Galen and Arganda argue over Berelin's safety. The Seanchan, led by Tylee Kirgan, question Perrin's intentions. To gain leverage for Fael's release, Perrin showcases hidden arrows and demonstrates the potential threat. A fierce wind interrupts their negotiations, leaving Perrin to propose a plan to free Fael without bloodshed. Tylee agrees to release Aes Sedai and Ashaman, but warns of the difficulty in dealing with the Shadow. Perrin reveals a document granting him aid from Suroth, sealing a deal with Tylee to secure help. In Chapter 5, Faeli serves Savannah in the Aiel camp, feeling the pressure of her status as Gaishan. She worries about punishment and hopes for Perrin's arrival. Savannah dismisses Galena, who is mistreated by Tharava. The Wise Ones want to move to safer valleys, but Savannah insists on staying. Fael reflects on her precarious situation as new Gaishan arrive. Roland warns her of the dangers of her escape plans, and reveals that some Meriden may return to the Threefold Land. After receiving a mysterious rod from Alvin's son, Fael faces Tharava's wrath when all Gaishan are stripped for punishment. In Chapter 6, Mat Cauthon discovers that Luca's traveling show will stay in Jurador for 2 more days. Frustrated, Mat explores the bustling town, admiring a rare black and white razor horse and determined to negotiate for it. Returning to the show, he finds the audience has grown, making it impossible to persuade Luca to leave early. Inside a wagon, Mat meets Tuon, who has a new dress made from silk he bought for her. Their banter reveals the growing tension and complications of their relationship. Suddenly, Julian informs them that Seanchan soldiers are setting up across the road, escalating the situation. In Chapter 7, Mat Cauthon discovers nearby Seanchan soldiers and warns Noel to find Aegianan and Olver. A confrontation occurs when Seanchan soldiers attempt to enter a tavern without paying, but a standard-bearer intervenes. Mat checks on the Aes Sedai, finding them arguing after an incident involving Jolene, Bethamine, and Seda, where channeling escalates. Mat uses his Foxhead medallion to disrupt the flow of the One Power. The Aes Sedai debate teaching Bethamine to channel after she accidentally uses it, while Mat slips away, avoiding confrontation with the 2 warders, Blaric and Fen. He goes to sleep feeling uneasy about the Seanchan and the situation with the Aes Sedai. In Chapter 8, the show folk prepare to leave Jurador due to tensions with the Seanchan. Mat organizes his Red Arms for travel and meets Aludra, who is creating fireworks called dragons, to combat the Seanchan. As Mat and the others travel to Runion Crossing, Aegianan and Doman announce their marriage, while Mat grapples with troubling visions of Rand. When Tuon and Mat ride off, they encounter Tinkers who follow them, concerned for the women's safety. Mat learns that Tinkers are moving toward Ebudar for safety under Seanchan rule, but he warns the Seeker about the potential dangers of their laws. In Chapter 9, Mat seeks information about Tuon from Aegianan, who reveals rumors of the Seanchan imperial family's dangerous nature and Tuon's troubled past. Aegianan warns Mat that Tuon is unlikely to marry for love. Meanwhile, Aes city troubles arise as they confront Tuon, who dismisses their overtures, believing them to be escaped Damane. Mat intervenes when Tuon uses Adam to control the Aes Sedai, asserting he won't let her harm them. After a tense exchange, Mat frees Teslin and Jolene from their collars, but Tuon expresses displeasure. Mat decides to bury the Adam to prevent future trouble, despite the rain. In Chapter 10, Mat and Tuon ride through the village of Shiota, where Mat senses danger and warns a traveling peddler to leave. Suddenly, the village sinks into the ground, causing panic. Val and Luca rallies the show folk to continue to Lugard, while Tuon expresses a desire to visit the cities with Mat, hinting at their evolving relationship. After a tense night filled with unease and prayer due to the sinking, Mat tries to relax with games and drinks but remains troubled. When Tom shares a letter from Moiraine, it reveals dire warnings and prophecies regarding their future. Mat recalls memories linking him to the Eilfin and Elfin, realizing he cannot join them on a quest for the Tower of Genji, fearing the consequences. In Chapter 11, Mat and the traveling show leave the vanished village for Madarin, sensing Tuon's unease. After securing their performance, Mat learns of a nearby Seanchan presence. They visit the White Ring Tavern, where Mat's luck in a dice game draws attention, but he ultimately loses. Tuon leaves for the necessary, and Mat discusses looming dangers with Tom, including a Seanchan army hunting for Tuon. As they prepare to leave, they are ambushed by armed men. Mat fights fiercely but is wounded. Tuon intervenes, killing one attacker. They decide to flee Madarin quickly to evade further danger. In Chapter 12, Perrin rides toward Almazar, reflecting on his responsibilities and worries about Fael, who has been imprisoned for 51 days. At a Seanchan-controlled farmhouse, chaos erupts when a clerk vomits beetles, causing panic. Perrin reassures the anxious clerks, downplaying the incident. He then accompanies General Kurgan, who requests a map of Altara and prepares her soldiers for immediate deployment. They arrive in Almazar, where they encounter a local woman overseeing forkroot production. After a tense negotiation involving Suroth's name, they secure a large quantity of forkroot before Perrin is suddenly shot with an arrow. In Chapter 13, Elaine directs her forces against Arimilla's mercenaries during a siege, feeling frustrated as Birgitta leads the defense. Elaine considers her leadership challenges, including a lack of soldiers and increasing assaults. Amidst the battle, a storm complicates matters, prompting Birgitta to urge Elaine back to safety. As Elaine prepares to retreat, she learns of Captain Gaiban's arrival with nearly 4,800 guards, bolstering her forces to almost 10,000. Delighted, Elaine appoints Gaiban as captain and her second-in-command. Despite the chaos, she feels hopeful about her army's strength and the chance to change their fortunes. In Chapter 14, Elaine moves through the palace, feeling irritated by the expectations placed on her. She meets Rianne, Kara, and Jalari, who expresses her desire to keep her name despite her Seanchan identity. Elaine learns that Marley, a Suldam, wishes to be collared again and decides to send her back to the Seanchan. Tensions rise when Chanel accuses Elaine of hiding Merilil and demands action. Birgitte asserts Elaine's authority, while Elaine, fueled by anger, challenges Chanel's accusations. After an outburst of frustration, Elaine leaves to change her wet clothes, trying to regain her composure amidst the chaos. In Chapter 15, Elaine struggles with her pregnancy while navigating the palace, feeling lost and frustrated. After locating her apartments, she is attended by her maid, Asand, and younger maids, preparing for a meeting with mercenaries. Avienda discovers her ability to sense ter'angreal functions, leading them to explore various ter'angreal together. Their bond deepens as Elaine learns that one ter'angreal reveals the words lies and truth. Aiel women. Naderi and Dorinda arrive, taking Avienda away for training. Elaine feels alone after bidding farewell to Avienda, but is reminded of her duty to defend the city and claim her throne. In Chapter 16, Elaine meets with mercenaries in the Blue Reception Room, where tensions escalate over casualties and compensation. She warns Captain Meller of consequences for neglecting training duties. After the mercenaries leave, Elaine considers Arimilla's plans to enter Kemlin and learns Arimilla boasts of leading the first party into the city. Elaine then interrogates Master Hark, who claims innocence despite evidence of theft. She offers him a deal to follow Meller in exchange for his life. After Hark leaves, Elaine refuses to break the law despite Birgitta's anger over Meller's suspected crimes. Denny informs Elaine that Lady Dylan has arrived, sparking hope for good news. In Chapter 17, Elaine walks to the map room with Denis and guardswomen as tensions rise among the nobles due to Arimilla's siege of Camlin. Birgitta raises concerns about the changed palace layout. Elaine inspects maps and plans to reassure the populace amid uncertainty about her leadership. Dylan reveals nobles may be waiting for Arimilla to win before supporting Elaine. As they strategize, Elaine learns of Rienne's death, smothered with the power, suggesting foul play aimed at undermining her claim. Vandine warns her that the kin's safety is at risk, leading Elaine to enforce strict vigilance among them. In Chapter 18, Rand, Loyal, Nynaeve, and others gather in Lord Algren's manor during a storm. Rand hesitates to discuss his recent experiences, irritating Loyal, who seeks material for his book. Loghain reports that Elaine holds Kemlin, while rumors of Aes Sedai seeking Rand spread. Chaos reigns in Aradomin, prompting Rand to consider appointing a steward. Katswane warns Rand that his truce with the Seanchan will be unpopular. Rand reveals a prophecy's meaning, expressing the need to unite with the Seanchan to confront the last battle. Meanwhile, Loyal is anxious about meeting his mother and the prospect of marriage. In Chapter 19, Loyal confronts his mother and Elder Hayman at the manor after their search for him. Despite his mother's disapproval, he exchanges vows with Aerith. They discuss the Great Stump's urgent decisions, leaving Loyal anxious about the future. Suddenly, Rand senses danger as Shadowspawn approach. Trollocs flood the fields, and he and Loghain prepare to defend against them. Rand channels powerful weaves, creating death gates and blasts of fire that decimate the Trollocs. After the battle, Rand feels the toll of using Saidin and warns Katswane to leave Min alone, asserting his protection over her as he prepares for what lies ahead. In Chapter 20, Rand and his maidens discuss recent Trolloc attacks and receive a warning about the Aes Sedai. Basheri informs Rand about a meeting with the Daughter of the Nine Moons and potential traps. Meanwhile, Nynaeve, troubled by a headache, expresses concern for Lan, who wishes to join the fight. They share a heartfelt moment, promising to keep each other safe, and Nynaeve insists Lan take men with him to the Blight. In a nearby town, merchant Waylon Aldragoran meets Nynaeve, who reveals her identity and her message about Lan riding toward Tarmangaiden, affirming he will not ride alone. In Chapter 21, Rand and his companions arrive in Tyr, noticing the lack of guards and feeling the weight of Rand's role as Tavern. Inside an inn, Katswane asserts authority, and Rand struggles with the power of Sidon, ultimately creating a gateway to the Heart of the Stone. He encounters High Lords, including Darlin Cisnera and Carolyn Damodred, discussing the city's hunger and the rebels' actions. Bera Harkin informs Rand that the other High Lords are approaching Tyr, having reached an agreement to accept Darlin as steward. Rand demands immediate messengers and orders Darlin to prepare for Tarmangaiden in Aradomin. In Chapter 22, Hareen Din Tagara and her sister Shallan arrive in Ilion, reflecting on their past and Hareen's bargain with the Coromor. Tensions arise among the Wave Mistresses over Zaida's leadership. Loghain enters, revealing he can channel again, igniting shock among the women. Zaida asserts her authority, and Loghain requests ships for supplies to Bandar Eben, emphasizing the urgency for over 1 million people. News arrives from Semaila Din Salan about the Amayar's tragic fate. They have poisoned themselves, believing in prophecies. Zaida insists on sending ships to help, but Loghain insists they must prioritize their commitments to Bandar Eben, leading to conflict. In Chapter 23, Romanda reflects on the chaos following the murders of Anaya and Chiron while facing pressure to cease her investigation. At a meeting convened by Lelaine, tensions rise when Maurice proposes a plan from the Dragon Reborn. Any sister loyal to Egwene Alvir can bond in Ashaman, totaling 47. Despite objections about potential taint, Jahar confirms that Satan is clean. The offer is accepted, despite resistance from some sisters. Romanda learns that 51 sisters have been bonded to Ashaman, leading her to demand the arrest of Delana and Halima, suspected of being involved in the murders. In Chapter 24, Egwene endures punishment from Sylviana, reaffirming her position as Amerlin's seat. She meets with Lane, discussing strategies to resist their captors and influence the other sisters. A conversation with Matin Stepaneos about Rand allows her to sow distrust among the Aes Sedai. Egwene confronts Beonin, who reveals that Elaida is monitoring the ferrets, but she reluctantly agrees to warn them. Egwene also realizes Beonin has kept secrets, including the fact that she has not shared knowledge about traveling. The chapter ends with Egwene finding comfort in honeyed tea, signaling her progress. In Chapter 25, Tarna ascends the tower to meet Elaida, reflecting on the difficulties of bonding a shaman and the distrust among the Red Aja. Elaida, accompanied by Maidani, seeks updates on the rebellion in Taraban and orders Tarna to draft a public penance for any sitters neglecting to send sisters to work on chain towers. Meanwhile, Matt enjoys a meal with his companions, reflecting on recent events including the avoidance of a murder charge and the injuries he sustained in Matarin. The chapter concludes with the arrival of Telmanes and Vannin revealing the band's movement and updates on Egwene's status as the Amerlin seat. In Chapter 26, Toy leads a group through the forest while Tuon and Selucia feel deceived by his connection to the Dragon Reborn. Toy expresses frustration with Estane's leadership and strategizes to evade the Seanchan. Meanwhile, Perrin prepares to infiltrate Malden to rescue Fael, planning to disperse Forkroot into the aqueduct to weaken the Shido's Wise Ones. In the Shido camp, Fael encounters Roland, who flirts with her. She later meets Galena, who demands information about a hidden item, promising to take Fael and her friends with her when she leaves. Fael agrees to meet Galena the next morning. In Chapter 27, Rand al'Thor and his companions prepare to meet the Daughter of the Nine Moons, wary of a trap. Upon arrival, chaos ensues when Semerhage attacks, injuring Rand severely. Nynaeve attempts to heal him while Rand learns Semerhage's true identity. He decides to send the Suldam and Damane back to Ebu Dar to establish a truce, revealing himself as the Dragon Reborn, shocking those present. Meanwhile, Matt plans a coordinated attack on the Seanchan, preparing his forces as they wait for the right moment to strike, intent on hitting the Seanchan again before sunrise. In Chapter 28, Fael prepares for escape at dawn in Malden. She and her companions capture the suspicious Derain, ensuring she cannot alert others. As they navigate the town, tension mounts with the threat of discovery. Fael, Aleandra, and Maidine move cautiously with supplies, including an unknown rod likely a valuable terangreal. They meet Galena, who takes the rod, then unexpectedly leaves them trapped when debris collapses. With the way blocked, Fael and the others decide to dig themselves out. Meanwhile, Galena escapes the camp relieved to be free, leaving the others behind to face their fate. In Chapter 29, Perrin prepares for battle against the Shido, noting Masema's unpredictable presence. He instructs Basilgil to secure the cart drivers and discusses strategies with Tam al'Thor. As the Shido advance, Tam commands the longbows to fire, unleashing a hail of arrows while the Wise Ones and Aes Sedai launch fireballs and lightning at the enemy. Despite heavy casualties, the Shido press on. Perrin, driven by urgency to reach Fael, charges down the slope, determined to overcome any obstacles. He engages in close combat, using his hammer and knife to fight his way through the Shido. In Chapter 30, Fael and her companions escape a collapsing building during a fierce battle. Fael's leadership shines as she organizes their escape, while Perrin rushes to rescue her from a Shido. They discuss their next moves and plan to gather supplies for a journey north. Perrin learns that Galena and Aes Sedai may be Black Aja, heightening tensions. Fael is injured but remains determined, ordering a boy to inform allies at the fortress. Tylee arrives with news of their victory, bringing the prisoner Savannah, who Fael claims as part of her spoils. The chapter ends with the looming threat of the Shido's potential resurgence. In Chapter 31, Elaine stresses the importance of safety in Kemlin after a series of murders and is disturbed by Rand's condition. A red Aes Sedai Duhara arrives, offering advice, but Elaine refuses, asserting her legitimacy. She learns from Hark that two Black Sisters are in a house on Full Moon Street, prompting her to plan an arrest. Despite objections from her allies, She insists on confronting them with only 4 Aes Sedai, believing they can manage. They ride to the house, where Hark identifies it. Inside, they surprise Shane and the 2 Black Sisters, but are soon overwhelmed by 4 other Black Sisters who arrive unexpectedly. In Chapter 32, Birgitte rallies the Warders after sensing Elaine's distress and learns that dark friend Aes Sedai have captured her. Ignoring Dylan's warnings about their weakened forces, she organizes a rescue, gathering troops and horses. A wounded guardsman informs her of an attack at the far Madding Gate and the massing of enemy forces. Birgitte plans to send 1,000 halberdmen to defend the gate while she leads a charge to rescue Elaine. As she approaches, she witnesses chaos and deadly magic unleashed by the Dark Friends, prompting her to urge Chanel to shield their attackers. In Chapter 33, Elaine, held captive by Dark Friends, finds strength in Birgitte's presence. After Birgitte frees her, they discover their captors have been defeated. Elaine learns that Arimilla's forces are gathering outside Kemlin, and she resolves to lead her troops into battle against them. Following the battle, Elaine captures Arimilla, Nayan, and Elenia, telling them they will be her guests for ransom. Sylvassa Cairn claims the High Seat of Cairn, pledging support for Elaine. Lear Baron and Carindanshar also declare their allegiance to Truckend. With the potential of betrayal looming, Elaine prepares for the challenges ahead. In Chapter 34, Furik Karedi leads a group of 80 men and 21 Ogier to a camp in Altara, seeking information about the High Lady Tuon. Observing the camp's soldiers, he notes their unfamiliar armor and senses an impending conflict. Upon entering the command tent, Karedi meets Banner General Gamal Loon, who reveals recent severe engagements against elusive enemy forces with Damane and Ashaman. Loon describes a series of ambushes and defeats, suggesting the enemy's commanders are exceptionally skilled. Karedi expresses gratitude for the calf they share and determines to move toward the Malvide Narrows to locate the High Lady. In Chapter 35, Elaine Trakand learns that Lord Luan Norwillan and others seek safe conduct to enter Kemlin amid Arimilla's faction turmoil. Dylan expresses confidence in Elaine's leadership, emphasizing stability's importance. As Elaine prepares to meet the nobles, she considers the city's tension and the need for alliances. During the meeting, Luan requests a temporary agreement to face the Borderlanders, who are currently not aggressive but may threaten and/or stability. After confirming support from several houses, Elaine feels she has secured her position. The chapter concludes with her reflecting on the challenges ahead, including the looming threat of Tarmon Gaidon. In Chapter 36, Karedi rides toward the Malvide Narrows with Ajimbura and Melitane. Concerned about the small number of soldiers, he meets Talmanes and Mat Cawthon. Karedi warns of General Chisen's approaching forces and offers to let Tuon leave with him for safe passage for Mat's men. Mat questions Tuon's trust in Karedi, but she affirms it. A revelation occurs. Mat is Tuon's husband. As they discuss prophecies and fates, they realize the dangers they face, leading Karedi to insist Tuon must leave with Mat while he takes a group of guards to distract their enemies. Tuon prepares to ride out with a new identity. In Chapter 37, Mat prepares for battle against enemies hunting Tuon. As tensions rise, Mat devises a trap, instructing his men to feign vulnerability. When the enemy arrives, he signals the attack, launching a barrage of crossbow bolts. Despite initial losses, the enemy continues to charge, and Mat's forces regroup to form a defensive square. The Aes Sedai, initially unconcerned, eventually join the fray with powerful fireballs. After intense fighting, the enemy is decimated. Talmanes reports victory, and they begin clearing the dead. Hartha returns with the head of a traitor, and Mat grapples with his new noble status. Epilogue. Suroth plans to seize the throne after Empress Tuon's death amidst a rebellion. However, her ambitions falter when Tuon reveals that Suroth's ally, Elbar, attempted to assassinate her, leading to Suroth's downfall and impending execution. Meanwhile, Pavara Tazanovni and her fellow Aes Sedai arrive at the Black Tower to negotiate bonding Ashaman as warders. Taim, seated on a throne, coldly responds to Pavara's proposal, emphasizing that Aes Sedai's previous bonding practices must change. Despite tensions, he agrees, stating, "Very well," and mocking the Aes Sedai's position as laughter fills the chamber.